Welcome back, YouTube. My name is TayVikes28, coming back for another episode, 3 in 1 day, for the Toronto Huskies franchise. And for those of you that didn't check out the last episode, you have got to see that. Hands down the best game of the franchise. The Toronto Huskies went and hosted the Indianapolis Colts, and what a game it was. Last time we played the Colts, we lost 26-3. This time, the team came a little more prepared, and also in last episode, Henry Ruggs, we had been hearing about his off-the-field issues with possible criminal charges against him, and that came to fruition last week when the Colts came to town. Ironically enough, the situation forced the team to let go of Henry Ruggs, and he will be facing multiple years in prison. So, long story short, he is no longer a part of the NFL, which means we needed new receivers. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of our new receivers that we added, because we only had 3 healthy receivers on the roster last week, and those were CeeDee Lamb, Trent Sherfield, and none other than Terry Godwin. Now, obviously, you see some new names here, including Michael Pittman Jr. and Russell Gage. Now, we added both these guys last episode before the game against the Indianapolis Colts. Russell Gage was on our practice squad, so we went ahead and brought him up. He's up to speed already because he knows the offense. Made the most sense. And then Michael Pittman Jr., we signed from the Dallas Cowboys practice squad. So we went ahead and added him mainly to give us another receiving option and possibly a big-bodied receiver, which we don't really have outside of maybe Keontae Bonds. So, ironically enough, they both performed very well. Well, I shouldn't say both. Russell Gage didn't see the field much as he was the 4th receiver. But we had 2 receivers over 100 yards last week and 350-plus passing yards from Ryan Fitzpatrick. So we will have to go check that out if you want to see the details on that. But as we start up this Week 12 episode, we have a couple things for you. First off, scouting update, first one of the series. And then we also are going to be getting into the Week 12 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we have a guest on here, a Pittsburgh Steeler fan himself, Real Deal Neil 45, joining us once again. Now, he joined us previously for the game against the Minnesota Vikings earlier this season. And now he's coming back in Week 12 to talk about his favorite team and maybe a little bit about some scouting. I heard that you know a little bit about some of these players that'll be coming into this upcoming class.
Yeah, Taylor, thanks for having me. They call me Mike Mayock Jr. back home. So I know quite a bit about some of these players, so I'm looking forward to talk about the Steelers and some of these prospects.
All right, so to start this thing off, I'm just going to do this upgrade, and we have to make an injury decision here about Keontae Bonds, whether we want to put him in. Now, he did have a partial ACL tear, so I am hesitant to put him in immediately. I really wanted him to come back for this game against the, obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers, but Trent Sherfield has been playing amazing. As you see, he is putting up a really nice stat line, and he's only been playing for about a week to 3 weeks, maybe, not even. So Trent Sherfield, we're going to go ahead and start him this week. He's been playing very well for us as that number 2/3 receiver. So without further ado, let's go take a gander at these prospects. For those of you that wondered, I had to redo the draft class. I was putting players in there, and that's when I realized that all the players that were on the practice squads didn't show up on rosters. So for some reason, all these players that I thought were not in the franchise actually were. So I had to implement a last-minute change to the draft class, just downloading one. So that's where we are here with a downloaded draft class. So let's just get into some of these prospects. We'll start at the quarterback position. And as you see, I've scouted a couple of guys because we will probably be looking at a new starting quarterback next season with Ryan Fitzpatrick most likely to retire. So now we got a couple of the top guys, including Demetrius Maddox and Nathan Russell, as well as CJ Armstrong. A couple of first-round prospects here, and what can you tell us about them, Parker?
Well, I want to start at the top with Maddox. He is the projected number 1 pick, right? He was last year's Heisman Trophy winner. He was a Davey O'Brien Award winner, 4th in the nation in touchdowns, 15th in the nation for passing yards, 3rd in the nation in QBR. But probably the best of this all, so he led his team to the national championship. So, taking a look at his statistics, having a 164.3 passer rating means you are a very efficient passer. He didn't come close to leading the nation in passing, all right? But maybe he didn't even need to do that. He was really accurate, and he showed a lot of poise under pressure. All right, the biggest issue with him was a case of the Sam Darnolds. He fumbled the ball a few times this season, probably a few too many times for Kirby Smart's liking. But I don't think scouts should be worried about that. If he can get that under control, he will be the face of any franchise.
All right, as you can see here, he does have one heck of an arm, so that's something that we have to keep in mind for this upcoming draft. And then looking at Nathan Russell, who I also heard was in the running for a couple of awards this past season. What can we expect from Nathan Russell?
Yeah, Russell is projected to go somewhere in the top 10. Obviously, draft day changes everything. But he played at Oklahoma last year, is a junior coming out, so maybe lacking a little bit of experience compared to a guy like Maddox. However, he was tied for 7th in the nation in touchdowns, 9th in the nation in passing yards, and 4th in QBR. Last season, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, a really good ratio there. But with the size that he has, 6'3", 236, this is a bigger guy compared to some of the quarterbacks we're seeing now in the league, like Russell Wilson, or even a guy like Lamar Jackson, So, assuming Maddox is gone, I think Russell's a pretty safe selection. He might be a little lazy in the pocket, but I don't think that should be an issue coming in to the NFL. He makes the right pass in high-pressure situations like third downs and blitzes and stuff like that. I think he'll be fine.
All right, that is a good update on Nathan Russell. He's also a year younger than Demetrius Maddox, which shouldn't play a huge role in the scouting. And then the last quarterback that we want to hit on is, obviously we talked a little bit, we see what CJ Armstrong brings to the table, but I want to talk about a quarterback way down here in the 7th round, one Trevor Nickerson. I have been very impressed with what he brings to the table. I think that despite the fact that he's a 7th round prospect, the 9th quarterback on the board, I think he can bring something. And from, a team that I have fell in love with since I, kind of coached them in a sense in NCAA from Maine, what can we expect from Trevor Nickerson? You see, he has some good ability to get out of the pocket, which is something that I like from him.
Magic. You're going to expect some magic from Nickerson. Now, it's 5'11". You got to think Drew Brees, all right? You combine Drew Brees' build with the magic that a young Russell Wilson brought to the table. This is what you have in Nickerson, all right? He's got a talented arm, all right? Maybe not a strong arm like a guy like Maddox, but I don't think there's a huge discrepancy between the two. His opponents in college were not that strong. Obviously, playing at Maine, you're going to face lesser talent. However, playing in the Senior Bowl really helped him shine, which is going to send him flying up draft boards.
All right. So moving on from the quarterback position, at the running back spot, we have a couple of guys scouted here at the top, and I want to get your opinion on two guys. And what exactly separates these two guys, Devontae Royster and Dries Williams?
Not much separates them. They're both really efficient rushers. Maybe you rely on Williams' experience, being he's a senior and Royster is a junior. But let's take a look at Royster for a second. 7.6 yards a carry last year. Obviously, playing at Alabama, you're going to be running behind these absolute maulers,
right,
of humans, all right? Over 1,300 yards, almost 1,400 last year, 15 touchdowns, all right? There is health concerns, all right? Injuries cut his season short, and a lot of people had him pegged as a top 10 prospect before this injury, all right? He's being compared to Adrian Peterson, That's not a light comparison.
That's pretty good.
All right. So the talent here says early first. That's where it's talent, yes. But because of the injuries and because running back is such a replaceable position, you're going to look to take him late first, early second.
All right, and then with Drees Williams here, we see that he may not have necessarily the same vision as, Devontae Royster, but it does seem like he's still going to be a good player, and he's a little bit heavier, where obviously Drees Williams sits at 237, almost 240. Royster is only at 186, so just above 185. That's a large discrepancy.
However, the second leading rusher in the NCAA last year was Drees Williams, 1935. And that's just rushing. So total yards, well over 2,000. The only player to top him was a guy you might look at next year, is Kareem Randolph, a will-be senior from University of Rice, who recorded over 2,000 yards last season on the ground. Williams also led the nation in touchdowns with 28.
That's a pretty large mark there.
And he averaged 7.2 yards a carry.
Interesting.
So, stats say take Williams. Maybe talent says go with Royster. I say pick whichever one is available.
All right, good insight there. So, as you can see, I'll just scroll down through these other running backs, and then we'll move on to the wide receivers. And as you can see, I haven't gotten to scout a ton necessarily, but I wanted to look at some running backs. We do need help at that position. Now, looking at the wide receivers here, I have a couple of the top guys scouted and some of those mid-range guys who have been surprisingly pretty good. Now, I wanted to hit on two guys at the wide receiver position, one being this Aaron Robinson from Arizona. I've been pretty impressed with his route running ability more than anything, and especially considering he's 21 years old and still has that great ability to run those routes. I think he could be a really nice addition to this squad down the stretch. What can you tell us about Aaron Robinson?
Well, as a slot receiver, he caught 1,100 yards last year at Arizona. It's Arizona. They're not known for football either. So this guy makes offenses better. All right? Let's pretend that Bill Belichick needs a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be this guy.
Yeah, that's
Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type guy who will put up a ton of yards out of the slot. Great route runner. Great after the catch. Give me Robinson. I like him in the second round.
all right. I think that's something we have to keep an eye on moving forward. And then the clear number one option for this class seems to be Jamal Burgess from Central Michigan, of all places. What can we expect from him? He's a pretty big guy at 6'5", 195. What can we expect from Jamal Burgess?
Well, last year, he made people believe in him. All right? He had a really great year at Central Michigan with 70 catches, over 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. Look at this, 21.5 yards per catch.
Seems like he's a deep threat.
He can do it all, really. Route running isn't necessarily his strength, but with a little bit of development, he is 23, which is on the older side.
Yep.
But that's experience right there. All right? I think he'll struggle a little bit with some of the physical corners in the league because he's maybe a little bit underweight for his height.
Okay.
All right? I don't think you're going to have to worry about that too much because he's got a really nice jump ball ability. Burgess should be the number one receiver taken.
All right, and as you can see, I've scouted a couple other guys down the board. We're not going to talk about all of them until maybe another time. But down here, a lot of unscouted guys. I haven't gotten too far into scouting. And at the tight end position, I just want to hit on one person at the tight end position, and that is Dimitri Green. All right, well, I don't necessarily know that we're going to go with a tight end because we do have a couple of options. Delaney Walker may or may not retire, and then Jesper Horsted has looked very good for our squad. So what can we expect from Dimitri Green, though, as I don't have him scouted yet? but I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about him. He's 6'6", 254, so pretty big man.
Yeah, I got to watch a lot of him play at Miami, and it's evident that his build is overpowering. All right, he's stronger than these linebackers, obviously stronger than these safeties that are trying to cover him. All right, and I think he uses his body really well, sort of like Gronk. All right, he knows how to position himself. This guy has a basketball background, so blocking out those defenders to catch those passes, that's going to be a great strength to him, sort of like Antonio Gates. All right, now
that's a good comparison.
There is one issue though, and it's his off the field behavior. All right, teammates have claimed him to not be a quote team guy. All right,
Interesting.
but however, I think with the right culture, falling to the right place, that can really help a young guy like this. Obviously, something like that didn't work out for a guy like Johnny Manziel, right? He had some issues off the field, couldn't resolve them in the locker room. I think this guy's going to be a steal. Wherever he is taken, I expect him to be a first-round guy. So, you're going to get a really solid tight end for a long time in Dimitri Green.
All right, now we're going to go to the offensive line, and we're going to pair up tackles and guards. So give me some of the best tackles that you like in this class. I wanted to talk about one tackle that I absolutely knew that I wanted to talk about, and that is the left tackle, Adam Ritter. So Adam Ritter hails from the University of Florida, and I think he might be the best offensive lineman in this draft class. Now, I may be overgrading him possibly, but I've obviously scouted him. He's a big guy, 6'6", so that's what you want at the tackle position. And you got about 330 on him, and he's young though. He's only 21 years of age, but he is an elite pass blocker, which is something you don't necessarily see coming out of college.
You know, you're exactly right. You are pinning him to be this staple left tackle, and you could not be more correct. There is an issue. 2 DUIs, 1 open container, and 4 speeding tickets this last season. That's not good at all. And I believe that's going to significantly affect his draft stock, because this guy's a perfect picture of what a first-round left tackle should be.
Right.
All right, let's take a look at Laramie Tunsil. All right, projected first overall pick. He can't stay off the weed, and he falls halfway through the first round.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a little bit more significant here for Ritter, but one team is going to get, I think, a steal in this guy.
All right, as you can see, I scouted a couple other left tackles on the board, and then looking at the right tackles, I haven't put much into them, but I'm curious, are there any tackles other than Adam Ritter that you liked?
You know what? This is, I think, a very top-heavy draft class. If there's any guy I'm going to avoid, however, it's going to be Rory Stir out of North Carolina. He projects to be this really big tackle, sort of like a Trent Williams, where he's 6'8", 338, young, all right? Just a mammoth.
Right.
Has great potential. But my issue is his footwork. All right? He got beat a lot by these speed rushers off the edge.
It's tough to move when you're that big.
It is tough to move. And slimming down isn't necessarily going to be the problem solver. However, I think training with the right guys will be. Knowing how to get in and out of any cuts you need to make, or blocking anybody you need to. Stur just struggled in the pass blocking department. That's what his calling card is, but he struggled there last year. He led up sack after sack at North Carolina. I'm worried about this guy.
All right, and then for interior offensive linemen, we're just going to kind of skip over most of the interior offensive linemen because I don't have much of them scouted, so we will not talk too much about them. We'll tune back into that at a later date. And then looking at the edge rushers, once again, we're going to probably skip over these edge rushers because I don't have any of them scouted, and we haven't necessarily needed an edge rusher. Our edge rushers have been pretty good this season. And then defensive tackle, we don't need defensive tackle. We got 2 of them in the last draft, so we're not going to talk about those. So let's look at the linebackers, though. We could get an upgrade in the linebacking core. And I've scouted a couple of guys here, and looking at both left and right, we're going to combine them as outside linebackers. There are a few guys that I am curious about. One of which is Matt Edwards, the 4th round projected player from Illinois. And I think that despite what it says here, he could still be a good player. All right. And I think that he's got that pursuit, as you see. He can tackle the ball carrier. I want to know, can he play against NFL caliber talent?
With some coaching, yes. He was a 4-year captain at Illinois. Kind of unheard of. Great in pass coverage. And that's very evident with his archetypes and his top skills here. However, he is a liability against the run. All right, he's like Sunshine from Remember the Titans, but in a linebacker's body. All right, I'm worried that the offensive linemen are just going to bully him. All right, anytime a running back meets him at the second level, running back's advantage. However, he profiles to me for pass coverage abilities a lot like Roquan Smith. Excellent in pass coverage. All right, and Smith is good at all facets of the game.
Right.
But Edwards needs a helping hand in the run department.
Okay. And then there were a couple of other guys that I wanted to hit on. One being our Adarius Evans. I think he may very well be the best player in this draft class. I don't think I've seen a player like him coming out in a little while at this point. Obviously, he is a true linebacker, but he is a linebacker in terms of being able to also get to the quarterback, if that makes sense. But he's mainly, it seems like, someone who can do a little bit of everything. You can put him anywhere on the field, I feel like.
Yeah, he's a great tackler, and he's really improved up getting off the blocks this year. That was his sort of the disdain that scouts had for him, was that he couldn't get off the blocks. But he's fixed that. 80 tackles, 15 sacks, 20 tackles for loss, and 3 forced fumbles last year at Iowa State. He's a guy that has a really high football IQ, and you can trust him to make the right decision. Really high play recognition. All right. The only knock against him is he's not incredibly athletic. Like, he's not going to wow you with speed or strength, but he does everything the right way by the book. And that's why scouts love him. And I believe that he could be the best linebacker in this draft class.
All right, and then looking at the middle linebackers, I have not scouted anybody right now. We still have Josh Bynes, the veteran, in the middle. I'm kind of waiting to see what we can expect for there. Is there any middle linebacker, though, that you think could be someone to target down the line?
Yeah, only one guy really stands out to me here, and that's Akeem Moore out of Utah State. Last year he had 154 tackles, which led the nation, 10 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. So, really good stats. He's this old school type of player. All right? He gets knocked down, gets back up, and hits the guy harder the next time. Really good in pursuit, and has a really high motor. Kind of reminds me of Micah Parsons. Really high motor. All right? He's going to be a plug-and-play guy because of his high football IQ, his conditioning, and toughness. I like this guy a lot.
Okay. Moving on to the secondary now, we've got a what seems to be, from what I was hearing, a little bit of a weaker... I haven't scouted anyone in the secondary because I feel like our secondary, outside of maybe corner, is pretty good. We made a trade for a safety, so we don't have to look too hard there. But looking at the corners, I heard that it might be a weaker cornerback class. Do you have anything to back that up? Although it does seem like there's some first-round prospects, but are they actually going to end up being those first-round caliber players?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of first-round projected talent here. But I have a gut feeling most of these guys aren't going to live up to the hype. All right, it's going to remind me a lot of the William Jackson and Artie Burns first-round draft class from a few seasons ago. Okay. Lots of hype on these guys, and they all just sort of fell by the wayside. or didn't live up to their potential. And I believe that this is the case here because none of these guys really stood out to me. Now, Marcus Adams had 8 interceptions last year, which you think is a lot until you look at some other guys like Jacques Smith, 10 interceptions. He led the nation last year. All right? If there's one guy here I do like more than others, it could be Jacques Smith. He's got really good physicality and good footwork. And as a corner, you need that to make those cuts. All right? Now, he was taken out of some games at Western Michigan, and there were rumors that he just wasn't physically fit to play an entire game.
Ooh.
However, with 10 interceptions, that's pretty nice. I think that's a problem that can be fixed. All right? So, Western Michigan wasn't a good team last year, but he was their bright spot on defense. So maybe it was just he didn't care that much. But still, showing me 10 interceptions, I'll take it. So he might be one of the better coverage guys, but this class isn't jumping up at me.
All right. Is there any safeties at all, free or strong, that jump out at you? I was looking through here, and I see a lot of middle round safeties that is pretty much riddled in the middle rounds with safeties. Does anyone stand out to you as someone who could be a star that is kind of a hidden gem at all? Because I know looking through here, there's so many that we could identify. Now, obviously, we don't necessarily need a safety. We have the veteran Rashad Jones, but that's if he comes back. Now, he is 32, 33 years old, so there's a chance he may not come back. So we do have to look at safety, but it's not necessarily the highest priority. So is there a middle round guy that you can identify?
Yeah, I like Easter here. He's sort of being compared to Troy Polamalu. Now, that's a pretty tall task to live up to, but he was really good in run support, really excellent in pass coverage, which is why he's this hybrid archetype, right? He does a little bit of both. He's just got the knack that you want, these instincts at safety. I think he'll end up projecting as a first-round selection, but just because that he doesn't really have this great athleticism to him, he might fall a little bit, but he'll make up for that. He had 118 tackles last year, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 9 tackles for loss. He was the Bednarik Award winner, and he was tied for first in the nation with forced fumbles, with 5. So, I really like Easter. Obviously, he's a top guy, but the strong safety class in general isn't great. 1 first-round projection for me, and then the other guys are all 4th to undrafted free agents. So, not a great strong safety class, but if you want to take a look at free safety real quick, I kind of like Dorian Henderson out of Michigan State. He's a great cover safety. He led the nation in passes defended last year. So maybe he didn't necessarily have all these interceptions or whatnot, but he has a nose for the football. That true center fielder, that's Dorian Henderson. He's my 3rd-ranked safety for the free safeties.
All right. Good stuff there. That is your scouting update for right now in this here franchise. We will tune back in later in the season, probably at the end of the season, for another scouting update. But for now, it is time for our Week 12 game against the 4-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's right, 2-8 now, Toronto Huskies. It is about time to start this game up, and this should be a good one. We got a rookie quarterback, actually, starting opposite of our Toronto Huskies, and one that, to be honest, has been looking pretty good from what I've gathered. So, despite the fact they do have a losing record, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't necessarily out of the playoff race at this point. They still could make a run, but if they lose right here to the Toronto Huskies, then their season's over, essentially.
Yeah, the Steelers, that AFC North division's always really difficult to play in. There's just talent on all of the rosters. And with the rookie quarterback here, the Steelers are in a new era. All right, Big Ben is no longer the starter like he had been for the past 17 or 18 years. So I'm hoping for the Huskies in this game that they're able to get to the quarterback, rattle him a little bit, make him uneasy. All right, when Pittsburgh is good, it's because they protect their quarterback.
That's good insight there. Let's start this thing off with a kickoff, and the Toronto Huskies will be receiving. Starting this thing with a return to about the 23-yard line. I believe that is Terry Godwin, who is filling in for Ashton Doolin. A lot of injuries to the receiving corps. But then, last week, everything changed. As you see, Ryan Fitzpatrick's that have been having an up-and-down season. Started off really good, no turnovers until about week 8. And then they came pouring in.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours with these turnovers. I think Fitzpatrick today, in order to limit those, quick passes. All right, that's the Steelers' defense weakness is quick passes, and we see here a halfback delayed draw. Larry gets walloped in the backfield by Cam Hayward.
Yeah, that is a whole defense coming at him right there. It's like the entire offensive line forgot what their job was on that play. But now, looking at what happened last week, we saw for the first time this season, this Toronto Huskies offense push the football down the field. All right, that is something we have not seen yet. And it had a lot to do with the new addition of none other than, a nice play there by the defense. Was that TJ Watt coming off the edge?
Yes, it was TJ Watt making another great defensive play.
Yes. As you see, Merrill Wiley, the starting tackle now, after... We have a couple of changes here on this team. Merrill Wiley took over for Isaiah Wilson a few weeks ago and has been playing pretty good. And then now we also have Henry Ruggs off of the team and looking for a replacement. As we see a nice pass down the sideline, 23 yards to CeeDee Lamb on 3rd and long. And Pittsburgh, the coach is not too happy there.
Yeah, that was just a really nice throw and catch. Beat the corner off the get-go in man coverage. First down for the Huskies. That was Joe Hayden in coverage there.
All right, but as I was saying, they went ahead and signed a player you might be familiar with, Michael Pittman Jr. And what can we expect from Pittman Jr. moving forward for this Toronto Huskies team? As we see a deep ball, and that is going out of bounds. He had it in his hands, but then the defender came over and almost hit it with his... No, it almost looked like it hit it with his helmet, believe it or not.
Yeah, going back to your point about Michael Pittman Jr., this big physical receiver, 6'4", about 220, he just does everything right, all right? Great after the catch, has a knack for this jump ball ability. I think he's going to be a focal point of this offense sooner than later.
We see a completion here over the middle to Delaney Walker, the veteran tight end, veteran to veteran here, as Walker's been kind of taking a back seat to Jesper Horsted over the last couple of weeks. Horsted has been very good for this Toronto Huskies team, maybe a tight end of the future.
And then we see a 3rd down completion to Delaney Walker, picking up 6 when they needed 5. First down for the Huskies. Shazier on the stop.
And now they're in plus territory, if I'm not mistaken, which this is nice to see the Huskies come out and have a good drive to start a football game. That's something we haven't seen much this season. Their offense has been absolutely god-awful for most of the season until last week. Last week they seemed to put it together. 350 passing yards for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they were able to pretty much go all over that Indianapolis Colts defense whenever they wanted.
You know, through this early part of the game, it looks like it's going to be passing that will lead the way today. This Steelers defensive front, led by Cam Hayward, is really good in the run defense department. But there was a nice run, a pass out to the edge there. Jesper Horsted, as previously mentioned, making some splash plays.
Yeah, he's been really good for this Huskies. A surprise, player who came out of nowhere and just started playing really well the last couple of weeks, as we see Patrick Laird go for a nice 11-yard rush there in a first down. And that was set up due to the fact that they've been passing the ball. And that's what they need to do. They're getting these holes with the rushing attack by throwing the football.
Yeah, if your offense is going to be one-dimensional, you're not going to win a football game. So mixing up the pass and the run and getting some play action. Getting some play action in there. It's going to be key for this offense today. But there's a stop up front. I believe that is Norris, the rookie, the Steelers.
All right, now it's 2nd and 7 at the 17-yard line. Fitzpatrick in the gun. He's going to drop back and find a guy over the middle. That's right at the marker. Are they going to give it to him?
They do. 1st and goal. Fitzpatrick back in the shotgun. Sherfield on the reception. Needed 7. Got 8. Quick pass. He's got a guy over the middle. That is incomplete. Out of the back of the end zone. Should have kept his feet in bounds. He had all day. No one around him. Just bad awareness there.
Yeah, that looked eerily similar to a play at the end of that Indianapolis Colts game where Delaney Walker scored the lone touchdown in that game. Well, actually not lone, but lone touchdown until the final play of the game where he was in the back of the end zone and just made a nice play to find an opening.
You know, it's great to see Ryan Shazier finally healthy again and coming up to the ball, making these attack plays for the Steelers because he is, you know, being that Mike linebacker, he's sort of the captain for the defensive play calling. Although we know that Cam Hayward is a stud, and we see him take down Fitzpatrick. That is Ohio State product, Cam Hayward taking down the Harvard grad, Ryan Fitzpatrick. 4th and goal now from the 20. We should be expecting the field goal now.
Yeah, that's probably the expectation here, as I am going to... sorry, a little bit of a delay there. Anyways, as I was saying, it looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick, he took a pretty big shot on that play. A little upset, too, because he expected a little more time from his offensive line. And right now, it is appearing to be a field goal here for the Toronto Huskies, and we've seen a lot of that this season. Josh Lambo with pretty much the first points on the board today, and he has been consistent for this Toronto Huskies team. I don't think that he's missed more than a couple of field goals, and if he has missed them, they've been pretty long ones this season. So Josh Lambo has been a nice bright spot for this Toronto team. As we see a nice return here past the 25 to the 27 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that means we're going to see the first opportunity here for this rookie, Jacoby Caldwell, who's been having an up-and-down season so far.
You know what? As a Steelers rookie quarterback, you have a lot of pressure on you. You have these big shoes to fill because you've gone from, you know, Terry Bradshaw, and then eventually you went to Cordell Stewart, and then Big Ben. And now it's Jacoby Caldwell. So what's he going to bring? We got play action rolling out to the left. That's going to be near the first down marker to, looks like, Eric Ebron.
All right, they are going to give him the first down right there. That looks like it's going to be, that was a generous spotting of the ball. Interesting. But yes, Eric Ebron is the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, and I expect him to be a little bit of a mismatch. Tight ends have been a problem for this Toronto defense this season. Jack Doyle last episode had 10, that's right, 10 receptions.
I think the game plan right here for the Steelers is evident. Get Caldwell on the move to throw the football. Such a nice completion there to Juju to pick up the first down. And now within 2 plays, the Steelers find themselves in plus territory.
Yeah, that was the veteran Logan Ryan on coverage, who does make the tackle, catching back up to Juju, but you got to see some better play from your number 1 corner.
Shotgun here for the Steelers on the Huskies 46. Caldwell, 3rd straight pass, drops back, got all day, fires the ball over the middle. Deontay Johnson taking them into the Heinz red zone. 3 for 3, 54 yards to start for the rookie. That's the confidence that he needs.
Yeah, this is something we haven't necessarily seen from this Huskies defense the last couple of weeks. They've been on fire, probably the top defensive unit in football right now. But right now, they're looking like one of the bottom units. I don't know what's going on. This, however, in the red zone has been where they have been excelling, allowing only field goals last week, 6 of them, in fact, to the Indianapolis Colts, allowing themselves to get a victory off of that.
First handoff to James Conner. goes for his typical 3 yards, taking him down to about the 16-yard line or so. Taking a look at the Steelers' O-line. Villanueva and Filer at the tackles. Juju, as previously mentioned, is going to be pairing up with James Washington and Deontay Johnson for these receivers. 2nd and 8 here for the Steelers. Caldwell in the shotgun. It's a draw. Looks like it's Jalen Samuels with the carry. He's going to be featured a lot on 3rd down today. But here it's a 3rd and 1. Hands off to James Conner, and he is stopped behind the line.
That is Zaire Franklin on the tackle. And he's been playing really well recently for this Toronto defense. He's been leading this Toronto defense when it comes to these rushing plays and where they get in the backfield. He's usually one of the first guys there, which is something that he hasn't been doing until the last couple of weeks. And like I said, when they get in the red zone, it's only field goals. They are the ultimate bend but do not break defense right now, as that's going to be a 3-point play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris Boswell on the kick, and now it is going to be a tie game, 3 apiece. Moving forward, though, we are hoping to get another good drive from this Toronto offense. I'm proud of what they did in the first drive, but we need to see more of that if we expect them to win this football game. And this return goes out to the 21-yard line. Looks like Terry Godwin probably should have just taken a knee in the end zone there or let it go through. But Ryan Fitzpatrick and company comes back out for another drive here. They're probably feeling a little confident off of a nice win, a win in which they performed quite well.
Yeah, anytime you win in the NFL, you need to ride that momentum into the next week. And there's Laird with a nice move, taking the jump cut for the first down. But like I said, the Huskies know they're not going to make the playoffs this year. So what can they do to have this momentum, all right? You play turnover-free football. You find yourself making some good defensive stops. And then offensively, get creative. I mean, what do you have to lose at this point? You know that you're going to be changing your franchise very soon. So get creative.
All right, we got a guy in motion here, and they're going to fake it to him and instead hand it to Patrick Laird, who only gets a couple of yards, making it 2nd and 8 now.
And that's something I like. Some of this pre-snap motion, get these guys moving. And we see Fitzpatrick here going to be taken down by Mike Hilton.
Yeah, it looks like they sent a blitz, and they just didn't have enough people to block on that play.
Yeah, Hilton's one of these guys that can come up from his nickel or slot position at corner and really disrupt the passing game. They're not afraid to send him on a blitz.
Yeah, that was actually a nice, last-second pickup by Jedrick Wills, who tried to get a hand on him.
Because he was dealing with another guy.
Yeah, so it was a good pickup by Wills, but it just wasn't enough time for Fitzpatrick to get rid of the football.
A 3rd and a mile here. They're just going to play it safe, hand it up to Laird, but maybe he can make a move. He fumbles the football. Steelers pick it up. That's going to be Terrell Edmonds picking up the football. I'm not sure if he was down or not.
I don't know. It looked like he may have been down. We're going to have to see how they rule this. And also see if there's any challenges.
That's very close. It's tough to tell from that angle because we saw from behind. But I'm almost have a gut feeling that he might have
it looks like
that right knee down.
Yeah, it definitely looked like, if not the knee, almost the elbow. Then there is a booth review here. And I think they're going to go ahead and overturn this. And that's going to be big for Toronto because the punting game has been on point for the Toronto Huskies. So this could be totally different field position.
Yes. Well, let's give credit to Shazier there for making a nice play. Obviously giving Laird some confidence that the fact that this is probably going to be overturned. Let's listen to Ed Hockley here.
And he does overturn it here. And that's going to actually end the first quarter now. At the score of 3-3. Not a lot of points getting put up. We expected, though, more of a defensive showdown with these two teams. Toronto, one of the best defenses over the last couple of weeks. Ironically enough, 2 weeks ago, this Toronto Huskies defense against the Houston Texans of all teams, who just got Deshaun Watson back from injury, came out and their defense scored more points than their offense did in that game. They scored 9 points defensively.
Very nice. And you mentioned the special teams game. It's a very important and underrated aspect of any football team. You know, you go looking back at some of these, like the 2010 Chargers. #1 offense, #1 defense, 32nd ranked special teams. Special teams is important. They went 8-8 that season, did not make the playoffs. So, even though you don't want to necessarily punt, when you have to, it better be good.
All right, after an incompletion on first down that should have been an interception, this next play goes for a first down to Juju Smith-Schuster. About a 10 or 11 yard play there.
See a draw to James Conner, picking up the first down, rolling over the defender, taking them up to the Huskies' 42 or 43 yard line. James Conner averaging about 4 yards a carry. Looks good at the young part of this game.
Yeah, that was Rashad Jones coming up and making the tackle. He's been very key for this Toronto defense, and in terms of their rush defense at least, he's been coming up and making a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage from his safety position this season.
Another rush here, gets swallowed up in the middle for about a gain of 5. The whole defense was there to tackle James Conner, and we're going to move to 2nd and 5 now.
Yeah, they're nearing midfield at this point, so another pretty good drive from this Pittsburgh Steelers as they go deep, and that is caught. What a play by Eric Ebron. 34-yard reception over the defender.
Yeah, that looked like, Detroit Lions vintage Eric Ebron, or maybe when he played on the Colts and had that great season. Defender didn't get his head turned around. I think that was the main issue right there, because I think if we would have seen the ball, sticks a hand up, that ball's incomplete, and we're looking at a 2nd down. But now back in the Heinz red zone, the Steelers are looking to take the lead here.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because that player on coverage there was a rookie cornerback. And just like that, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones, nonetheless, a tight end taking care of this Huskies defense. You mentioned it earlier.
I did. I said that tight ends were going to be a problem today, and that has been the case. Those last 2 plays, I think, amounted to a total of, I want to say, close to 50 yards just to the tight ends.
Give credit where credit is due. These tight ends were making plays. Seals-Jones was wide open on that play, so maybe it's just a defensive issue there, or a lack of coverage. However, the Steelers find themselves up by 7.
Yes, the score is 10-3 now. Only about 2 or 3 minutes into this second quarter. So there's still plenty of opportunity for this Toronto offense to push the ball down the field again. They did have the ball rolling on the last 2 drives, so maybe they can keep that momentum and push the ball further down the field. I think they need to get those deeper passes like we saw last week that really helped out this Toronto offense.
A little bit of a better return here, up to the 25. Still the same as a touchback for Terry Godwin. But what are you looking forward here for this Huskies offense on this drive? This is an important drive.
Yeah, I want to see this Toronto Huskies push the ball, whether that be throwing those outside receivers or getting it down the middle of the football field in the seams. Because obviously they can run the football fairly well against this Pittsburgh offense, it seems like. But those holes are going to close up if they don't utilize the passing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned earlier, you can't become one-dimensional, and they've run the same play to Patrick Laird a few times, and it's been working. As Tuitt takes him down for a first down. However, I agree. I think we need to see some more passing from this offense, because the first drive, you saw a couple of really key plays hopping through the air.
And that's what happened last week. Is the best plays in that game were not through the rushing attack. It was actually through the air. Michael Pittman got involved a lot last week. Trent Sherfield. We haven't seen anything from either of those guys in this game.
Well, we have an I-form pass here. Look out. Cam Hayward taking care of business yet again.
Got a couple of guys there who just didn't pick up
didn't pick up the block there.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be 3 sacks for the Steelers defense today. Hayward's going to get credit for a half a sack there. Should be a whole one. However, Fitzpatrick goes down yet again. Laird and Johnson both failed in their pass blocking duties This is going to bring up 2nd and 17 now.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem in this game if we're going to continuously be forcing these long 2nd and 3rd downs. And right there, a contested catch. That was supposed to be for Michael Pittman Jr. on the outside.
All right, 3rd and a mile now. Last time we saw them in this situation, they ran the ball, but here they pass it. Clean pocket for Fitzpatrick over the middle. 1st down, Huskies. That's Delaney Walker, the veteran, taking care of business. Whatever Steelers tight ends can do, he can do better, he says.
You know, it's kind of funny because Delaney Walker has taken a massive, you know, I guess back seat is the easiest way to put it, to Jesper Horsted this past couple of weeks. He has been all over the football field, Horsted. So it's nice to see Delaney Walker getting back out there and being an integral part of this offense.
And that's a momentum shifting play for the Huskies. If the Steelers were able to force them to punt, the Huskies might not gain this momentum back until after halftime. But here we go out to the flat. Jacob Johnson in the flat there for gain of 5.
And not bad, getting the tight end slash, not tight end, fullback slash tight end, because we utilize him in multiple cases here. With his first, I think, reception in at least 4 or 5 weeks. As we see, a nice play by the Steelers defense again. Patrick Laird has nowhere to run the football.
Yeah, Terrell Edmonds' best part of his game is run support. He's a liability in pass coverage as far as I'm concerned, but he has the ability to come up and make plays as a tackler. So 3rd and 7 here. Pass play for Fitzpatrick. He's dropping back. He's got some pressure. He's going down again. That's Stephon Tuitt taking care of business today. 4th and 13. Punt coming up for the Huskies.
Yeah, I have to say I'm very disappointed in the pass protection in this game. I understand they have a pretty good pass rush out here in Pittsburgh, but what is more sad is they did such a great job last week against a very good Indianapolis Colts front four that was not able to really touch Fitzpatrick, but maybe 1 or 2 times. The biggest problem last week in protection was the defensive tackle, DeForest Buckner. They couldn't keep him away from Fitzpatrick, but the edge rushers couldn't touch Fitzpatrick. That's kind of, turned the tables here in this game.
Well, I kind of agree with you. However, Watt hasn't really been an issue. And he really does a great job on the edge. But Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, these are the guys that plug up the middle for the run-stuffing department. But nonetheless, I think the issue with that play in particular was the routes took too long to develop. Because Fitzpatrick had the ball for a good 4 or 5 seconds. But that's in the past now. We see Harvey Clemens making the tackle on James Conner.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Toronto's ability to, come up and make tackles in the run game. Because that is one thing that I was worried with this Husky squad, that they weren't going to be able to stop. Because if they can't stop the run game, then these teams are going to control the entire game.
Yeah, you can't win if you can't stop the run. And there's another great stop in the backfield.
That is Fedi Adenabo.
Taking care of Jalen Samuels as the rusher. 3rd and long now. This is where the Huskies need to make a stand. Try and get to the quarterback, or at least force a 4th down.
Yeah, that's one thing that they've struggled, to be able to get teams off the football field on 3rd down this season. They've had a couple of issues with that in a few games. But for the most part, Toronto's been fairly good at being able to get these, right there, just an incomplete pass. But that wasn't really the defense, like anything that the defense did. That was all on the quarterback. He had a guy open. Yeah,
just an errant pass. I believe he had Juju open across the middle of the field there. But regardless, a punt for the Steelers now. First time Jordan Berry is getting some action today. And the Huskies need some points here before halftime.
Yeah, they desperately need to get a score to essentially even up this game. Because if you think about it, this Pittsburgh offense is going to take control coming out of the second half. So I need to see some points put up on the board for the Toronto Huskies. As Ryan Fitzpatrick comes back out. As you see, he's been getting put on his back a lot in this game.
Yeah, usually a tough guy to bring down just because of his pocket awareness and his surprising mobility, Fitzpatrick has not been able to elude the bear-like arms of Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt. And here Laird shakes a guy off, takes it into Steelers territory. It's a gain of 5 here on first down.
Yeah, now they're in I formation, and Ryan Fitzpatrick gets ready to once again hand the football off.
Devin Bush coming up to make a play there for the Steelers. Laird with already 12 rushes in the first half here. For me, that might be a little too much. I want to see some passing, and besides third down, there's going to be a nice play after the flat. I don't think they're going to have enough to pick it up. It's going to be really close. At this point, I think you got to go for it.
You would think, but I'm curious what they decide to call. They could end up letting this go to the 2-minute warning and then just try and punt the ball away, depending on, because they probably don't feel too comfortable with the way that this offense has been just failing.
It looks like they're going to attempt a long field goal here. This would be close to a Heinz Field record. A very difficult place to kick, and that's going to fall off the upright. No good. Lambo nearly takes it 60 yards or so into the into the uprights, but that's going to hit and doink.
That's one of the rare misses by Josh Lambo this season. And that means the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take over and immediately get into plus territory. This is not a good situation for the Toronto Huskies.
I think going for the field goal was a good call. All right.
Clearly, he had the leg.
And I think they were in a position that they knew we need some sort of points. We trust our guy Lambo. Perhaps the wind was working in his direction, but kicking in that open end of Heinz Field is a tough thing to do.
All right, looks like there's going to be a screen pass trying to get set up here, and that just gets absolutely blown up by the defensive front.
3rd and 4 here. This would be a key stop for the Huskies as we see Caldwell in the shotgun on the Steelers logo. He drops back to pass. Pressure up the middle. He's going to get his pass off to Jalen Samuels, and he is stopped short.
That's going to be a close one. 4th and inches. Now, pretty much the same situation. 41 versus 42-yard line. Now, does Pittsburgh kick it? Or do they punt it? Or do they go for it?
You know what? I know Boswell's got a good leg. He knows how to kick in Heinz Field. But to me, this is a either go for it offensively or punt it. And they're going to go for it. The offense is on the field. Do they try and draw them off sides? Do they run a play?
I think they run a play here. They're feeling confident right now. There's a wide open player in the flat, and that's exactly where they go. Toronto sends the blitz, tries to get to the quarterback, and it just doesn't pay off.
A good defensive play, better offensive output there. Caldwell over the middle now to Eric Ebron. That was Jalen Samuels there on that 4th down reception. Getting out of bounds, stopping the clock, and the Steelers burn a timeout here.
All right, so now they're in field goal range at the 34-yard line, 39 seconds left. I'm expecting them to try and get this football into the end zone, though, as another batted down pass on a screen pass. These screens just have not been working for this Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yeah, either go to the other side or abandon that aspect of the game, but more pressure up the middle again. Back-to-back failed screen passes. Matt Canada, what are you doing?
This is prime Pittsburgh play calling right here.
Yeah, well, it's not run, pass, punt. However, it is head-scratching play call after head-scratching play call, and now we see Boswell on to attempt the field goal. This is more manageable territory for him, and he just is able to sneak it through over the crossbar.
Yeah,
3 points is a decent output here for the Huskies defense.
Yeah, not bad considering the fact that they've been on the field for a better portion of this first half.
Yes. Yeah, and with under 30 seconds to go, you don't expect them to push the ball down the field unless you get a really good first play or a kickoff return here. It's not going to be the case, only getting to 26. You have 3 timeouts, and it takes 2 or 3 plays to get it into field goal range. However, with this offense, they've been very conservative today.
Yeah, I'd like to see him push this down the field and at least try to get into field goal position. We'll have to see. They do have 3 wide receivers here.
Another handoff to Laird, but he has some territory. He gets rocked by Devin Bush. I think he was able to avoid that. He had blockers ahead of him.
Yes, he did. And now 2nd and 4 from the 32. Looks like they are going to try and push it down the football field here. And a completion over the middle for a first down and another timeout from Toronto. So now they need to really get a big play here to get into field goal range.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this dink and duck stuff isn't going to work. Fitzpatrick uncorks a pass, though, and that's not what you want. You want to get out of bounds.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what he saw there because the guy did have a step. I believe that was Michael Pittman Jr. with his first reception. And they're just going to go ahead and hand this football off.
Yeah, they're forfeiting this half right now. A good play, however, you don't have any timeouts. So I'm not sure what the thought process is there. But regardless, we're going to go into the half. Steelers up by 10.
Yeah, I think that what it boiled down to is I don't think they really expected to score a touchdown on that play. So they went ahead, ran the football on the off chance that Patrick Laird could break one. Then that'll be a positive play. Otherwise, it should bring them to halftime and with only a 10-point lead.
Yeah, you know what? I liked a lot of what the Steelers did offensively there. The rushing game has been shut down. However, while you're leading, you want to be able to protect the football. So I think they're going to turn to the rushing game a little bit more in the second half.
And look at the Colts with a win over the Detroit Lions, and they kind of shut down Matthew Stafford. Phillip Rivers having a bounce-back performance after last week losing to your Toronto Huskies. And we go down to Tampa Bay where Tom Brady is getting beat out by Drew Brees 28-14 headed to halftime, and Tom Brady with 2 interceptions.
All right, let's go to Houston, an AFC South matchup. Texans scrape by 27-24. Deshaun Watson having a really good game. Kenny Stills pitching in with a reception, 5 receptions for a touchdown, They find themselves at 9-2.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because Kenny Stills absolutely destroyed this Toronto defense 2 weeks ago. He had 10 receptions when we played him, and I believe it was close to, if not over, 100 yards. So it was pretty good stuff from them. But here we go to start off the second half here in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be a kickoff to the Pittsburgh Steelers and an opportunity for them to stretch this lead out even more.
Ryan Switzer on the return, taken down at the 28. The Steelers have a weak return game this year, so if there's anything that can go the Huskies' way, maybe a fumble on a punt or a return. However, the Steelers' offense is coming back on the field. I expect them to run the ball, try to control this clock, but if your offense isn't working, go back to what it does, and that's the passing game. But here we see a nice run by James Conner, 1 yard shy of the first down marker. So that's a great start for the second half. Play action here, gets turned around a little bit, but is able to fire a pass out to the edge. That's James Conner. Back-to-back plays for significant gains.
Yeah, right now this Pittsburgh offense seems to be moving the ball pretty well. And I expect another pass, actually a pass here. I was going to say run, but a nice one over the middle. That is going to be complete.
James Washington here on the reception. First grab of the day. And I think Washington is a guy that we're not going to see much longer in the Steelers uniform. They really like Deontay Johnson. And obviously Juju is playing really well this season. But a nice play there from Washington. Hopefully he can continue to build his off-season stuff.
All right, now in field goal range already, the Pittsburgh Steelers wasting no time getting the football down the field.
There's a pass out to Jalen Samuels here. He's going to be taken down after a gain of 6 yards. Safe pass to your running back, who's typically the security blanket in this portion of the field. You want to be careful getting closer to the red zone. The field's starting to shrink. More room for error, I suppose.
Yeah, as we see the rookie there feeling the pressure as the Toronto Huskies send a blitz, forcing an errant pass, and now 3rd and 4. And another nice play at the line of scrimmage. Some more blitzing from this Toronto Huskies team, and I think that's what they need to do on defense. It seems to be working, getting to this rookie quarterback, and look at that, another batted down pass at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mentioned it in pregame. if they can get pressure on this young quarterback, he's going to have a difficult day passing. And we're seeing it in the short passing game especially. Here's a Boswell field goal. This kick is up and it is pure. 16-3 is our score now. It's become a 2-possession game. I guess it was earlier, however.
Yeah, it is. But what's key about this is they keep it a 2-possession game.
Yes.
Because if that would have been a touchdown, that would have obviously made it into a 3-possession game. So keeping it a 2-possession game here is very key for this Toronto defense. So a good job by them, keeping the offense within shooting distance. And a pretty good return there by Terry Godwin, making some people miss and getting after the 28.
All right, I'm expecting some urgency from this Huskies offense. Laird's been good, but I've almost seen enough of him.
Yeah, to be honest, Patrick Laird, he's had these games this season where he just gets force-fed the football, and then there are other games like last week where we just barely see him.
Laird takes a handoff again, gets taken down by the duo of TJ Watt and Terrell Edmonds. Minimal gain here, 2nd and 9. You gotta start passing the ball. Use your 3rd down plays on 1st down. Don't go run, pass, punt. You are not Matt Canada.
Well, now it's 3rd and 7 right now with 2 straight runs for about 3 yards total.
Nice play there by Devin Bush on the edge, taking care of Laird, and that's what we're talking about. The stats say that the Huskies have been efficient, 12 of 16 for Fitzpatrick. Laird is averaging a decent amount of yards per carry. But the issue is situational play calling. They're not calling, plays past the line of scrimmage on 3rd down. They're running into traps, essentially, on 1st and 2nd down. Not a fan of what's going on for this Huskies offensive play calling unit right now. That's a great punt. It settles down at the 4.
Yeah, they're going to call it at the 3-yard line here. Another great punt from Matt Hack, and that's what I've been talking about. He has been a phenomenal addition to this Husky squad, taking over the punting duties, and has been lights out this season. I think he's already got closing in on 20 or more punts inside the 20-yard line.
Huskies need to make a defensive statement here. Keep this offense at bay. And that's a tough way to start the drive, an 8-yard gain. When you're backed up like that, you are weary of sending the house. However, you don't want to be that conservative. I don't like that defensive play call. But here we go. Another handoff to James Conner. He's going to pick up the 1st down. The Steelers have some breathing room. Jalen Samuels on the rush.
Yeah, and that is the veteran Josh Bynes eventually making the tackle. And he's been pretty quiet in this game. That's unlike him. He's usually all over the football field. However, today, quiet game from him.
Deep pass over the middle. That's going to be incomplete. A drop there by Deontay Johnson. And that's been a familiar theme for him over the young part of his career, is the drops.
And they're going to fake a handoff to the wide receiver and then go to the backfield to James Conner and get some pretty decent yardage.
3rd and 4 for the Steelers. This is where the defense needs to make a stand. Caldwell back. He's got a clean pocket. Fires it to James Washington, picking up the 1st down for Pittsburgh. That 13-yard gain there for Washington. His 2nd grab of the day.
And that is Logan Ryan in coverage again, getting beat. It's not something you see from Logan Ryan that often. So it's I don't know what is going on, but he seems to be getting beat on these island plays.
I think some help would be beneficial for Ryan. Keep another guy on his side of the field or something like that. But either way, there's a great play by Floyd Ellis.
Yes.
Very nice play for Ellis there, taking care of the ball carrier. His first, the first time we called his name today, I should say. Caldwell's back to pass it again. Quick pass outside. Picking up just a few yards. 3rd and 3 for the Steelers now. Washington with the reception.
Like I said, they can get him to 3rd down, but 3rd down has been an issue for this Toronto defense. And another nice play there by Juju Smith-Schuster. Great play by the defender to get to him as he's catching the ball, but an even better play by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You know what's been bothering me is clean pockets. Caldwell has had all day to make a pass. And give credit to Juju for standing in there and making a tough catch. But Caldwell just had all day to throw the football.
That's a great job from this Pittsburgh offensive line. And that's something that wasn't the case last week. You know, Toronto was able to actually beat up on a pretty good offensive line out there in Indianapolis. They were actually able to get to the quarterback a couple of times. I think they had a total of 3 or 4 sacks in that game.
And Connor's back on the ground yet again. This is going to be close to a first down. Not sure if they'll give it to him or not, depending on the spot. But, you know, Connor has been pretty efficient as a runner today. Usually he struggles with finding these gaps, finding these holes, lacks a little bit of vision. But today, a freight train can run through the gaps that the Steelers offense is creating.
We see a run by the quarterback in a move. A little bit of mobility here by the rookie.
Yeah, Caldwell showing off the wheels there, picking up 11. That's Beckwith on the tackle. And that's something the Steelers haven't seen their quarterback do since about 2008.
I have to say, that was a pretty impressive play by Terrell Beckwith, the defensive tackle, getting down the football field and making the tackle.
Yeah, if Beckwith wasn't there, we could have seen Caldwell scoring. So, great awareness to move up the field and take care of the play. So, first and 10 here for the Steelers, and they're driving. This drive started way back at the 3. Caldwell on play action. He's going to take off again. There's a nice solid tackle. No gain on the play.
Yeah, I have to say that you saw Ryan Fitzpatrick with a pretty, I don't know, just disgusted look on the sideline after they let up another first down. As you see, a reception here, but not getting to the first down marker.
Yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones there on the catch. Kind of went backward, trying to go around a tackler instead of through them, and that cost him a yard or two, and possibly the first down. 3rd and 2 here. Can they continue to bend but not break here in the red zone? We will find out. It's all a matter of 3rd and 2 yards.
This is where this defense makes their money. Let's see if they can do it once again, as they are going to go ahead and run the quarterback once again. All of a sudden, he's been rushing on this drive. What has gotten into Jacoby Caldwell?
You know what? There might not be a better time to do it. You have the Huskies reeling and on their heels anyways. So why not throw something else at them? All right, you score here, this game is done.
All right, as you see, this Toronto Huskies team struggling today, which is unfortunate. They're struggling on the defensive side, though, which is something that we haven't seen from them yet this season.
I would argue that they're also struggling on the offensive side, but we've also seen that this season.
I would say they aren't struggling nearly as badly as previous games. In one game, we saw them have only one drive that resulted in something other than a 3-and-out. So.
You know what? I think a lot of that just has to do with some of the lack of talent on the roster. Obviously, this team has a lot of potential, but they haven't been able to put that together as a cohesive unit yet this season. But with this draft class coming up, we saw a lot of talent with some running backs, quarterbacks, and receivers. So if you get some more playmakers, I think this Huskies team will start to turn it around. And there's a touchdown over the middle. James Washington having himself a second half. That's a touchdown.
Yeah, that is his 5th receiving touchdown of this season. And I have to say, that pretty much puts this game away for the Toronto Huskies. And unfortunately, it's going to be another L for their season, putting them to 9 losses after this one.
Steelers came out with a really excellent game plan today, and I think they're going to go for 2 to put them up by 21. Either way, it's still a 3-possession game, but he's got a guy right there. That's Deontay Johnson wide open. So, 24-3 is our current score. 4th quarter just began. And if anything is here, it's going to be too little too late for the Huskies.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme of this season. Honestly, though, most of this season, they haven't even had too little too late. They've just haven't even tried, it seems like, on the offensive side of the ball. Until last week. Like I said, last week was a bright spot for this Husky squad, and I was hoping they could take that momentum and roll it into this game against a Pittsburgh team that wasn't doing too hot, sitting at 4-6. But if they get this win, then that's going to be putting them right back in the playoff contention.
All right, Fitzpatrick back here for the Toronto Huskies. Taylor, have the Huskies ever, entertained a quarterback change this season?
They have not done that. I think they just want to stick it out with Ryan Fitzpatrick this season. There's no point. They only have one other quarterback on the roster, and that one quarterback is Josh Dobbs. I don't think that he is going to be any better than Fitzpatrick. At least what Fitzpatrick brings to the table is he has that experience. He can run those 2-minute drives and run them well. We've seen that this season. So I think that's what they're betting on, because they expected to lose a lot this season. Obviously, a brand new team. This is their first ever season in the NFL, so something that you kind of expected.
Yeah, I suppose so, but it's not like a Marshall University situation where it's players who are all inexperienced. Now, I know some of these guys are like first or second year players, but there are veterans and players who have played on other teams before. So what's going to have to change next year in order for the Huskies to find some success?
Well, they're going to need to be able to develop a passing game. That's something that's really hurt them this season. Rushing-wise, they've been okay. Now, obviously, we've seen them in this game have a pretty good rushing attack. But more than anything, they just need to get some better offensive weapons. And obviously, hopefully, an upgrade at the quarterback position at some point. That is, as we see, another inaccurate pass here from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, he's been consistent for them. He hasn't necessarily threw them out of football games. He's only had one game this season where he's had multiple turnovers, and I believe it was the game against, I want to say maybe the Baltimore Ravens, either the Ravens or the Houston Texans, I can't remember now, but he had 3 interceptions in that game. But that was the first game that he's had more than one interception in a game.
All right, let's get back to the action here. The CeeDee Lamb on his third reception, looking to be one of the go-to targets for Ryan Fitzpatrick today, his third grab. So they find themselves back in the Steelers' territory. If anything here, you just wanted to get some points on the board, make this look like more of a game than it really was.
Yeah, and that's actually nice to see CeeDee Lamb get involved. He was very quiet last game, as it was all Trent Sherfield and Michael Pittman Jr. As we see another reception here over the middle, that is, ironically, Trent Sherfield.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting a little bit more urgent here on the offense, understanding that rushing the ball is not going to do them any favors anymore. So Fitzpatrick has thrown the ball nearly exclusively on this drive. Lots of shotgun, lots of receivers on the field. And he's alone in the backfield yet again, drops back to pass, fires the ball quickly out to CeeDee Lamb for his 4th grab of the day.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing. I want to see more of this passing game next season and the rest of this season. I can't necessarily evaluate these guys if they never use them.
There's Raquel Armstead on his first rush of the day. Almost no gain. Shazier coming up, making another tackle. That's his 7th of the day. 3rd and 2 here for the Huskies. This is 4-down territory, if anything. There's a pass over the middle. That's a reception looking to be Trent Sherfield.
Yes, that's his 4th catch. I believe that's his 3rd on this drive, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, Trent Sherfield had a great day last week. We saw him make the game-winning play last week, and an absolute mind-boggling play by Trent Sherfield. The awareness that he had to make that play and get it into the end zone to win that game. But I want to see a little bit more of Trent Sherfield down the stretch for this Toronto Huskies team.
Yep, I definitely agree. Sherfield can be one of those dynamic players who you can line up wherever you need him to, and he will perform very adequately. I think the Huskies right now, looking at this goal-to-go situation, they're becoming a little bit too conservative here, but Fitzpatrick's dropping back. TJ Watt's on his back. That's going to be a sack.
He just had nowhere to go with the ball there. He had all the time in the world, really, but nowhere to throw the football. It doesn't matter how well you block. if your quarterback has nowhere to throw the football, then you can sit there and block all day long.
5 sacks for the Steelers today. Watts first, which is surprising because he's usually the guy to get the quarterback the most. But that's been Cam Hayward. So 3rd and goal here from the 13 now. Closest they got was the 5. It was an 8-yard loss. Fitzpatrick throws it out quickly to, looks like that's Delaney Walker. So much more manageable now. 4th and goal. You going for it?
Well, I think you kind of have to at this point. If you're not going for it, then you're just conceding to making this game a show, essentially. Make it look nice for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's not much to lose at this point either. Your pride is already kind of down in the dumps after getting shellacked on both sides of the ball. But let's see what they decide to go with here. Will be Fitzpatrick and the offense back on the field.
And that's a touchdown in the back of the end zone for the 2nd straight week. This time it's Michael Pittman Jr., though. And that's kind of the first time we really called his name today, maybe his 2nd. And that was close.
Yeah, looks... Ooh, this one might go to review. Hopefully he dragged one of those feet, and it is going to the booth. We're going to have to take another look at this. I'm not certain he got both feet down. Unless he dragged that left foot, he's out of bounds. It looks very close.
I will have to see if they get a better angle at some point. It looks like they've made a decision.
Pretty quick, so it looks like whatever they saw in New York is pretty definitive evidence. Touchdown stands from Michael Pittman Jr. And this gives the Huskies their first touchdown of the day as Lambeau boots the extra point up and good. Onside kick time now for the Huskies.
Yeah, that's probably what this is. And you never know. Never say never. All right? In the NFL, we've seen some crazier things. Hey, we saw something crazy last week with this Toronto Huskies team. So maybe we can see some more heroics here in the 4th quarter.
It's about this time the Steelers might play Renegade with the crowd amped up. But it's going to be a normal kickoff. I think the Steelers weren't really anticipating that. Either way, Switzer gets rocked at the 29-yard line.
That's Jesper Horsted. I've been saying his name a lot recently. He is all over the field. Doesn't matter if it's special teams, on the offense, catching receptions, blocking. It does not matter. He does it all in this offense and in this entire team.
All right, so we should be seeing a run-heavy approach here from the Steelers. They're about even, these teams rushing the ball today. But the obvious advantage has been the Steelers' passing game. So sending a guy in motion, actually drop back to pass. They have a couple tight ends over the middle. They're going to shoot it out to Eric Ebron yet again, who's having himself a really nice afternoon.
Yes, and that's going to be Josh Bynes, the veteran in the middle with the tackle. And another reception for Eric Ebron here. That is going to be 2 in a row.
Looks like somebody's in this building got him on their fantasy team. Because this is rushing territory, but here we go. 3rd down. That's a completed pass to Nate, not Nate Washington. Goodness, he hasn't played for the Steelers since the 2000s.
That's a blast from the past.
That's James Washington, no relation, but a 1st down nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed in this Toronto Huskies secondary in this game more than anything. Obviously, the defensive front, I wish they could have gotten more pressure, but at the end of the day, this is a good Steelers offensive line. But I'm more disappointed in the secondary because these corners and safeties, they have played better for most of the season, and this isn't even an elite Pittsburgh, receiving corps.
Yeah, it's time to drain the clock now for the Steelers as Floyd Ellis makes another stop on James Conner. But I'm surprised that the Steelers went to the air 3 straight plays.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing there.
It worked.
I mean, yeah, it worked, but it was a little concerning. Another pass here, and it's going to end up being a run as the quarterback just goes for it.
1st down for Caldwell.
And that's going to lead us to the 2-minute warning. He now has 28 rushing yards. If you have Caldwell in your fantasy lineup, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's going to effectively end our game here, barring a essentially 3-and-out from the 45-yard line. But James Conner taking it up for a gain of 2 or 3. Huskies are in timeout mode now. Just getting the clock to stop is going to be their friend.
Yeah, I mean, at least they were able to get some points on the board to make this look a little more manageable. But it was a very disappointing Toronto Huskies output here in week number 12.
All right. 3rd and short, which is where the Steelers have really excelled today. I expect them to keep it on the ground, so... Well, actually, I don't expect anything at this point. They really surprised us on this drive.
I was going to say, they, I think, could throw it here on 3rd and 3, just solidifying that win, but they don't have to throw it to do that.
Nope, they'll run it up the middle. Forward progress takes care of the first down. So that's going to be our final score today from Heinz Field. 24-10. Steelers taking care of business through the air and on the ground, finally eclipsing the century mark. And looks like they're just going to keep giving James Conner the rock.
You know, it's unfortunate that Josh Bynes couldn't force a fumble there. That would have been a pretty big play, as he's up to 7 tackles now on the day.
As we can see on the ticker down at the screen, looks like Tom Brady and the Bucks have caught back up to Drew Brees and the Saints. 35-35 with 2 minutes remaining in the NFC South matchup.
That's an elite quarterback group there in that matchup. And I honestly think that both of those teams could be making the playoffs this season. We'll have to check in at the end of the year to see how that ends up panning out, excuse me.
Yeah, but that's going to do it here for us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As Chris Boswell sends a field goal. That might be an issue.
I think that
at the middle of the field.
I think that we officially have, as you see, an upset John Gruden on the sideline. I think we officially have a little bit of a rivalry. Our first rivalry here in the Toronto Huskies franchise. I think it's got to be this Pittsburgh team. At what disrespect they had on that drive to throw the football, not once, not twice, but like 4 or 5 times, and then to kick a field goal. Why?
Yeah, you know, that's just a slap in the face, a kick in the teeth type of move there by the Steelers.
Well, leave it to the Steelers, one of the dirtiest teams in football.
Obviously, the fans like to see it, but from a football maturity standpoint, that's pretty low on the totem pole. Caldwell leads the Steelers to a win today, 234-2 on the through the air, adding about 30 or 40 yards on the ground. Fitzpatrick having a decent day completion-wise, but not enough was done for this Huskies offense to get them a win.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed from this this offense, I guess. I thought they would come back and continue the trend that they had last game and kind of force the ball down the field a little more. We didn't see a lot of deep passes from that Toronto offense, which is something that they did well last game, and I thought they might go back to, because if you did something well, why not try and do it again?
Right on. Well, Taylor, I'll let you finish this. Thank you for having me as a guest yet again. Happy to always see the Steelers win. Huskies taking the L here today, dropping to 2-9. I'm sure I'll be back.
Yes, I'm sure you will hear some more from a Real Deal Neil 45 here on YouTube. Check him out. And then this should wrap up our Week 12 game here and move towards our Week 13 matchup against the Detroit Lions. Possibly a winnable game here for the Toronto Huskies, because they desperately need to get some more wins. Right now, they are in line for the #1 pick. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If that ends up panning out, then we're going to have a hard decision to make to start the next draft. But in the meantime, my name is TayVikes28. I thank you for watching, and tune in next time.